another inch possible at night. Plus, winds are becoming feisty, gusting up to 20 miles per hour, blowing and drifting some of that snow around as it's a lighter, fluffier snow type as highs today only reach the low 20s. That's the forecast on the mighty 1630 KCJJ. Right now, it's 17.
As the snow continues to fall, it's Wednesday during the noon hour, which means it's time once again for Senior Talk with Rex Brandstatter, brought to you by the Solon American Legion, Senior Benefits, and Walden Place Senior Living. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Rex Brandstatter.
Well, hello. Good afternoon, Jim. How are you today?
Well, I'm doing okay.
All things considered.
Yeah. Well, I'm safe. I'm dry and
You're
warm.
Here. You're warm. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Wow, it is what it is. We'll talk about that, sure, for sure. Well, greetings and welcome to Senior Talk, the snowy program that comes to us once a week. It's a great day to be a senior and to be here with you today, for sure. That is snow or not. That is a fact. It's a pleasure to be here. So, hello, and thank to you, each and every one of you, for taking time out of your busy day or snow day, we're going to call it. And thank you for listening to Senior Talk, and those who are seniors and senior gonna-bees or wannabes, thank you for listening in today. We'll certainly do our best to bring a lot of ideas to you that some of them may be of value to you, some of them may help you, cover important aspects of your life, or maybe your upcoming retirement or some of your planning, or maybe you can pick up something here on Senior Talk. And as we do all that stuff, we'll talk about lots and lots of different things, and we'll also talk, throw in a little history as well. So my name is Rex Brandstatter. I'm 75 years old, for God's sakes, and I'm a real estate broker, and I love to meet and talk and work with seniors. And I work with a lot of seniors. I work with the senior estates. I work with the powers of attorneys. I work with trust departments of banks, attorneys, CPAs, families of seniors who want to sit and meet with me and talk about mom or dad, or mom and dad with their adult children. Sometimes they're seniors, for God's sake. We just sort of sit down and talk about your real estate needs. Maybe the house is too big. Maybe the house is on the wrong side of town for your lifestyle now. All those things, and it's not an emergency situation. And the best thing you can do, the very best thing you could do, is talk about it amongst yourselves. You can call me for sure, but feel free to engage your family on your ideas and your plans, and then you can give me a call, and it's what I do to help seniors, whether it's a year down the road or 2 years down the road. We should at least have a conversation so you know what your plan may be. So you can give me a call on my senior line, which I offer to you at 319-330-5534. That'd be 330-5534. That's my senior line, and we'll just set up. We can meet at your home. We can meet probably there, because I can come to you in this snowstorm. I don't want you to go out. And at a coffee shop or my office, whatever works for you. And just talk about your ideas and your plans. For sure, you should know the value of your home. Now, if you're a senior and you've owned an 8-plex for a long time, or a 12-plex, or a couple duplexes, and you've absolutely had it with tenants and all that, working weekends and mowing snow, shoveling snow today, that's part of your job that you retained, or shoveling snow drifts and all those things. Forget it. Don't mow any more grass. Give me a call. We'll see if we can help you out with how to get rid of those properties for you. So this is Rex. I'm at 319-330-5534. Happy to help. It's what I do. Well, grab yourself an ice cold root beer, or today maybe some hot chocolate or a cup of coffee and a sandwich, and we'll see what we can brew up here on Senior Talk. And I tell you what, we can't even begin a reasonable conversation unless you look out the window. And the elephant outside the window, because we're not going to let him in the room, is this weather. And when I got here, I kind of slugged my way through, and Jim said, "How are the roads?" And the roads are exactly how you would expect them on a day like this. The plows, I saw several plows in Coralville and Iowa City, and a couple of DOTs on U.S. Highway 6 when I was coming down here. Nothing that you haven't encountered in your lifetime. You lived around Iowa for a long time. This is nothing you can't handle. Should you handle it? That's only you can answer that. I would say that you have a front-wheel drive car, you'd be much better than a rear-wheel drive car. If you have a four-wheel drive or an all-wheel drive, you probably do just fine, as long as you go on the routes that you're going to go. There are people out and around, things like that. It kind of brings up the old days of, remember late in the fall, you'd take your car down to your local friendly gas station and you'd have the snow tires put on. What, you remember all that stuff? You'd ground up your snow tires, and my gas station guys, they'd keep my tires for me for all year round. When I go down there, I'd call and they said, "Can I come in next Tuesday?" Sure. And they'd dig out my snow tires and put my snow tires on and go back in the spring. And I always did. That was handy for me because then I could have the oil changed in the spring and oil changed in the fall. And I thought that was a great setup. Of course, now with front-wheel drive cars, I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee. I think I'm on my fourth or fifth one, and that's the greatest vehicle in the world for me. 4 doors and a big lift hatch in the back for stuff, and 4-wheel drive and go anywhere, and works for me. But I always remember my dad's definition of 4-wheel drive, and my dad, he wasn't a big believer. He said 4-wheel drive enables you to get stuck farther from the road. So that that was his opinion of 4-wheel drive, and I think of that quite often when I'm driving in that car. But I like it, so be it. Well, let's think this thing through here a little bit. This snow thing, I will tell you this: a lot of businesses are closed. I drove by lots and lots of businesses, and they're closed. No lights on, no cars in front. So it's if you're going to go somewhere, I'd call first to see if they're around, and I'll probably bet you 50-50 that a lot of the small businesses are closed for sure. Of course, the big box stores will be open, and the grocery stores will be open, things like that. So, but let's think it through even farther. You're listening today, and you're a senior, and you've got grandkids, or just you and Ma at home, or just you, whatever the deal is. What would you think of a day like this if you were in the 5th grade or 6th grade? What would you think of a day like this? You'd be so excited you couldn't see straight. Number one, there's no school. That was always the highlight for me. There was no school. But the other thing is you and your buddies could get outside and cause a little neighborhood commotion. That would be snowballs and building a fort. Now, this snow is not conducive to that. It's really dry. Coming down here, I looked in my rearview mirror down south there by Terry Trueblood on my last 42-mile hike down here through the cornfields to KCJJ. And he was coming. He was going a million miles an hour, so I just turned into a lane. I got out of his way. Those trucker guys, they just keep going. I don't know if they don't care, but those rigs really going. I got out of his way, and when he went by, there was such a cloud of snow that that's what it was. So it is what it is. But just think when you were a kid, this is the greatest day in the world. No snow, and you're going to go outside, and the teachers couldn't give you any homework because you weren't there. So put it in perspective. Now that we're seniors, you think, oh, crap, I'm not going to go outside. Forget that. I hope I got enough food in the house, which you should have for sure. Just take a day. Take a break. So why am I here? I'm here because I want to talk to you guys. That's exactly why I'm here. I want to talk to you. That's for sure. Well, the other elephant in the room, of course, is none other than Cooper DeJean chat. That's not going to go away. Not only going to go away, it's going to perpetuate itself. What a young guy he is. I've been following him for a long time. When he was in high school, I learned of him, and I did everything I could to read about him and watch him on TV when he's kid. He's from Odebolt, Iowa, and that's Odebolt, Odebolt, Iowa. It's west of Carroll. So if you go up into that end of the neck of the woods, well, my wife is from Odebolt, and I rescued her from Odebolt when we were both here at the University of Iowa. That's when we met, and we got married shortly thereafter. So I rescued her from Odebolt, Iowa. Nice little town. My wife's dad was a welder, and he was basically a blacksmith is what they were up there, and he went out, dealt with farmers, and went out in the middle of their fields and welded their combine when it broke down, or the wagons and stuff like that. That was his job, and he had a very good business. So that's what she grew up with. So we met Cooper DeJean, my wife and I. We met Cooper DeJean, and I wore my Odebolt hat. This was last year, even before he had been drafted, or he was just drafted, but he hadn't left it. He was still here in town, and he was signing autographs. So we went over to see him, and there wasn't many people in line when we got there. I had this Odebolt hat on. He looked at that hat, and he was like, look, where'd you get that? And I said, well, we were in Odebolt. I said, I'll introduce you to my wife. She's from Odebolt. Well, they had a really nice conversation. So my wife knows little Cooper DeJean. And, folks, he's not little. If you saw him run, he's got some guns. He's got some muscle. That kid he's just the nicest kid in the world. And we talked to him about that. And his mom and dad, his dad, anyhow, I don't know about his mother, but his dad is in the insurance business. He says his grandpa was in the insurance business. So that's where they're from. And what are the biggest things that come out of Odebolt, Iowa? Well, it used to be the home of Jolly Time popcorn. That's where all the farmers grew a lot of popcorn. They had great big silos in there, Jolly Time popcorn. But the hottest things I ever come out of Odebolt would be my wife and Cooper DeJean. And in that order, I better say that in case she's listening. So more power to him on his career, and away we go. Scoring is anybody else you can think of locally who might have scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl? And I'll tell you right now, he played in the mid-'90s, and he played at City High, and he played for Iowa, and he played for Atlanta Falcons. That'd be Tim Dwight. Tim Dwight, I believe he ran a kickoff back, a punt or kickoff. I think a kickoff back. So we have two guys. Tim is from Iowa City, of course, and but Cooper DeJean played at Iowa, and so our hats off to both those young guys. Good for them and their careers. That's for sure. You know, lots of seniors were high school. A lot of you guys were high school athletes, men and women alike, and I think that all Iowans of certain age brackets, all Iowans, I think, of certain age brackets, still yearn for and miss the old small-town girls' state basketball tournament. And it was a harbinger of bad weather. We all knew that, the legends of bad weather. In 1 year, a couple years, many years, of course, they played in what Veterans Auditorium or the barn in Des Moines. And 1 year, a big snowstorm about like this, so all the teams had to stay there overnight, and they had a great big mixer, we'll call it, and they had a lot of fun doing it. So things happen. But I for one, I sure miss that. Now the women's game has come a long way. I understand that. And the old, if you watch them now, back then they could only dribble twice. And now my wife played for Odebolt, and a lot of women that we know played. I'm going to call it the six man. I don't mean that way. It was six women basketball back then. It was sort of an archaic game, but it sure rounded up. The state, rallied the state where the towns are from, and to watch it on TV. And then at halftime they had young boys, high school boys, dressed up in trying to think of the fancy dress clothes they had on with bow ties, stuff like that. It was a pretty neat deal. They really did well. Iowa did it well. We were the second to last state to get rid of the six women basketball game, and I understand the progress, come a long ways. We can't go back. We don't know that, but that sure brought back a lot of memories for me. So I would also tell you this, that I walk at the mall a lot, Corwich Mall a lot, when it's weather like this. It's too dangerous to go outside, slip and fall, so walking at the mall. And I will tell you that there are a lot of people out there doing that in the winter, so if you've never done that, you just go to the mall and park your car, walk in the door, just start walking, and it's a good low impact exercise. You'll see a lot of people. Wow, I see the Bob Smith is out here, or Jane Jones is out here. It's a good place to exercise, and I think you should consider that for sure. I read this stat the other day, and it really made me think about something. And once I heard it, I had to sit down and think about it, see what you think. My notes here say it's interesting stat, but not surprising. 75% of Iowans who live here now were born here. So 75% of the people who were born here are still here, meaning what? Meaning that, A, we're probably not smart enough to go somewhere. Like today, we're here. But it doesn't say you can't go on vacation. It just says 75% of Iowans who are born here live here. Well, we like it here, and not so much January, I suppose, or this kind of weather, but we're just not willing to pull up stakes and move. Now, that leaves 25% who do, and we salute them and thank them and best wish. Whatever this country, you can do whatever the heck you want, and the more power to them. But I just thought that was a lot. I think that's probably a Midwest thing, maybe I'm wrong, but I just thought that was a pretty high number. I've not read any other stats on any other states and how they do, but I think that's pretty much tells the tale of the tape. So. Well, a senior lady says to me this. She says, my sister recently lost her husband. And she's planning to move back here to be closer to the three of us siblings, in other words, her kids. Or three of us kids, adult kids. She has asked to stay with me until she, quote, finds a place to live on her own. So the lady who said this to me, she said, I live alone, and she said, I love it. But she said, I also love my sister. What can I do? And I said, well, she's kind of put you in a bind, unknowingly probably, but your sister thinks, well, there's my sister. She lives back here in Iowa City. It's not Iowa City, but it's in Johnson County. I'll just move back and stay with her, and we'll figure something out. Sooner or later, I'll find a place. Well, basically, define sooner or later is my tip. Now, having your sister move in with you, even though you might not be the apple of your eye, it's what we do. It's what families probably do, unless there's strife over the year of some sort. But it says until sooner or later I find a place. Well, she said, what can I do? And I said, well, I said, okay, here's what I would do. Now, if my brother called me and said he had a problem, needed to move in, I said, well, come on down here. He lives north here in a big town. And, of course, he could come down here. But then at some time I would say, how long do you think you're going to stay? Because that's I want an agreement on that. I want an agreement on that. So I said to this lady, I said, knowing your stance on this, that it's family, but also you like to live alone, you really love it, and you don't want to change your lifestyle, even though your sister's had a change in hers. I would say to you that ask her first, what do you think of a stay period? And she's going to say, as soon as I found a place. I mean, that's going to have to be her answer. Okay, well, then I would say, what are you looking for? Is it feasible for what you're looking for that they would even surface, even come up? Are you going to rent? Are you going to call a realtor if you're going to try to buy? Is this going to be a 60 to 90-day thing? But she said there was no time frame mentioned. I said, well, your sister's going to say, well, as soon as I can find a place. Well, I said, then I think, this is just my opinion, I think you need to ask her how she's going to proceed. Try to find something in the paper. That won't work. Nobody advertises places for sale. Is she going to drive around town and look for signs for rent? She going to call some other friends that they have and see if they know of a place? I mean, is she actively going to look, or is she just looking for a place to land? And that's what you don't want. Even if it's your sister, that's what you don't want. You have to have what they would call in today's world exit strategy. Got to have an exit strategy for your sister, but you don't want to show it too hard. You just kind of want to think this through. Now, you could also say, to hell with that. You're not moving in here. Find somewhere else. That's a stance you could take. I understand that. But, how choosy will she be to find a place? Are there opportunities available now? Will there be some soon? What is she thinking of a timeline? I think that I recommend her to have some good sister-to-sister talking. And if you talk up front, you can iron lots and lots of these things out. And I told this lady that. I said, I think what you do is call her on the phone and have a talk with her. Just lay it out, your feelings and your ideas. All right, she said, I think I'll do it. Well, a senior man advises, here's an interesting one. A senior man advises me that I'm helping my mom downsize. When we talked about assets, we made a list. One of the things was, she said to me, she says, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I have a lockbox. Now, if you have a lockbox at the bank, you know this. First thing is you can't get much in them. I mean, you can barely squeeze your hand in there. You pull that tray out. Even if you get the big one, there's just not a heck of a lot of room in there. So I would assume, I don't know this, but I assume she had the normal size. We'll just call it the regular size lockbox. So I have a lockbox. So he immediately said, well, do you have the key? And she advised him where the key was. So now he's all set. He goes, he knows he's got the key. Well, he went to the bank because he's power of attorney. And he went to the bank and said, hi, I'm here. I want to get in my mom's lockbox. I'm Joe Blow, and I want to get her box. She's Mrs. Joe Blow, Mrs. Smith. And the bank said, let me look on the list here, type of thing. No, you don't have access to it. He said, well, I'm power of attorney. And they said, well, your mom has a trust, a Mrs. Smith revocable trust. And they said in the paperwork here that it doesn't say the trust doesn't give anybody the right to get into the lockbox. And he said, once again, I'm the power of attorney. I can do whatever. And they said, no. Now, this is most recent. This is like last week. So he said, well, what do I do? I want to find out what's in there. We're specifically looking for some documents. And they said, well, we'd like to have, I don't know this part, but he said, you're going to have to go to attorney and have your mom sign, make something, have your mom sign it, and have it notarized that your mom signed it, that your son, this is the son, could get into the lockbox. Amazing. So I got thinking about that. So he just thought that was a bunch of run around, a bunch of hooey. The bank is looking out for, the people who will come in there and get in a lockbox and take off with it. I can understand the bank side of that. I don't know when he was at the bank if he had the power of attorney paperwork with him. I assume he did. We'll say that he did, because they will ask you for that. So if you're going to go somewhere, you're the power of attorney, you better take a copy of the power of attorney papers. So I'm pretty sure he did that. He pretty well had it all ducks in a row. And the bank said no. And he had to go have an attorney type something up so his mom could sign it, which would involve a notary type of thing, I'm sure. Went back to the bank. Then he got in, and it took him a couple days, of course. Didn't happen 2 minutes in order to get in it. So I got thinking, I have a revocable trust. My wife and I have a family revocable trust. Now, the key word in revocable trust is what? Revocable. And you can make any change you want. That's the deal. It can have a lot of trust. The Rex Brandstatter trust is fine, but the Rex Brandstatter revocable trust is what it says. I can make a change anytime I want. And you become the trustee. And you do it for a lot of reasons. You can talk to your attorney to see if it's right for you. I can't give that advice. I'm a realtor, not an attorney. But I sat down with the attorney, and we decided it was right because we have some real estate holdings, and we didn't want everything to go into probate. And I had a lot of other reasons that I wanted to do it. I've read a lot about them. You can go online and read about revocable trusts. What you're going to read is pretty generic how it applies, but it applies to all states. All states may have their own tweaks, but you could do that. And if you have some real estate, if you have some properties, usually where you come from on this thing, it provides a level of insulation between you and the probate, liability, all kinds of things like that. So that's the deal. But in this case, it kept him from getting into his mother's lockbox. Was never her intent, by the way. Never, ever. Nobody thought about it. So he straightened it out. So good for him. Good for them. Away they went. They got the documents they're looking for, and live and learn type of thing, I guess. But who knew? All right. Senior says to me, I have a rental building with 4 businesses as tenants. There will be a big street improvement project next summer that will make it difficult, but not impossible, for their customers to visit for a few months. The city has advised us that there will always be access, but it will be, not as easy as pulling in the driveway. Maybe the entry may be down the street a few ways, and you have to go into a little frontage road that they put in, probably a gravel type thing, rougher than a cobble. I would guess, they're not going to put in a new street. So it's going to make access for he's thinking of his tenants who are businesses, and he's thinking they're going to have a hard time getting customers in it. Now I have to tell you, folks, downtown Iowa City just went through this on Dubuque Street, and a couple businesses closed. I mean, like kaput, because they tore the street up North Dubuque Street there from corner of Washington Street up to Iowa Avenue. They tore out the street. They tore out the sidewalks. They put in a new sewer system, and I walk down there a lot. I take the bus from Cornwall, Iowa City, walk around Iowa City. I notice that, and then I walk home. So I kind of followed that progress. And a lot of businesses made it, but I'm going to use the old term, starved to death. They didn't set any world's records for doing business. And one of the restaurants, food places, just closed because they just said that did them in. And I just see a place in Cedar Rapids has taken, I think it's a restaurant. They've taken a proactive type thing. They've got a big street project coming this summer, and they said, we're out of here. So they left, and they moved to a whole different part of town because they didn't want to put their customers through their business not being open and their employees. So this is a big deal. So a couple of them have asked me about his tenants. I said, a couple of them had asked me about my plans as property owner. And he said, well, what am I supposed to do? And there's nothing he could do. The city is widening a street. I said, well, there's nothing you have to do, nothing you're supposed to do. However, here's what I have done with some property. You can quiz them on their ideas. Like, what do you want me to do? How do you think it's going to affect? Again, sit down and talk to them. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to be, you can talk to the city in this case, talk to the city engineer and say, what's the track record? How about the signage to it? What kind of access are you going to have? You need to get all your ducks in. Find out. Don't stand out the first day and watch them tear up the street, and here's your entrance down there with a little bitty sign. Tell the city you want a bigger sign, or show us your sign. What's your time frame on this thing? Get the facts, folks. Get the facts. That's what I told him. I said, you can figure out let them know your total concerns, and most likely the city will have a meeting to get their total concerns. And he said, this guy says, I don't want to lose them as tenants. And I said, well, I totally agree with that. That's not why you're there. I will tell you this, as a property owner, that owners have backloaded rents, and that means like, okay, for 6 months or 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is, as long as the street's closed, from day one to the day they open it, I will collect, and this is up to each landowner is different. I'm not going to put words in their mouth or projects in their mouth, but maybe you could what's called backload rent. You say, okay, we'll do half the rent for while it's closed, and then you have to catch up the rest of it. You could do partial. We'll just lower the rent by pick a number out to 10%, 15%, whatever kind of it works out. With the agreement of this, if you do that, then they have to agree that everything's hunky-dory, okay? So, okay, I'll drop your rent. I'm going to pick a number out, $250. I'll take that. We'll just drop it, $250. But you don't expect them to come to, when are they going to get done? How come then? Oh, they haven't poured the cement now. You don't want to hear it because you lower their rent. They're in there. They made the agreement. They're staying. All right. You kind of have to have some thought process here, and because you do want them. Because remember, if you miss a lease payment, they don't pay you your rental amount. You can't get that month back. And in today's economy, which is getting better, by the way, you might not have a tenant for a while. Who knows? All right. So people have backloaded rents, lowered rents, adjusted lease payments, stuff like that. Go meet with them. And I told him that. I said, head this thing off. These tenants or this land property owner is about half beside himself because he's afraid his tenants are all going to move out. And I said, do they have leases? Yeah, they all have leases. I said, well, a lease can always be broke if they just quit paying you. You don't want them. So go meet with them and look like you're the sharpest, bestest guy in the world. I've been there and done that, and I'm not the most bestest guy in the world, but I made some nice adjustments to some people, and I've got some more properties coming up where there's going to be that, and we're going to meet with them. That's what I'm going to do. So, a senior lady advises, I have no clue on the status of our insurance policies. Not on the amount, the location of the policies in our house, the payments on it. She said, I cannot get my husband to share any financial information. She said, come to think of it, I don't know too much about any of our finances. How do I go about finding out? Well, I said, the answer to that is you should go look in the mirror, and you should say, there's the lady who hasn't taken it upon herself to find out. It's you. You need to find out. And that information is apparently with your husband. So I don't mean to use the word confront, but you mean to say, Frank, I want to talk to you about our insurance policies. We're seniors, by the way. She says she is a senior. I want to know these things. Well, I take care of that. Don't worry about that. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. Baloney, Frank. It's a 50-50 deal, and unless you got something to hide, now what the heck will that be? Who knows? Nothing will say. So get with it. Your wife wants to know. Now, this could happen the other way around. At your house, maybe the Mrs. Smith handles all the finances, and Mr. Smith doesn't have a clue. So it's a two-way street. If you are like this and you don't know what's going on, shame on you, I think. Do you have a mortgage? If you do, how much is the mortgage? What bank's it at? What's the interest rate? How many payments left? What's going on here? And if he doesn't agree, then you have issues. And I told her that. I said, that is really something you need to work on. And I said, I wouldn't delay. I would not delay on that. That there might be IRAs in there with required minimum disbursements, and maybe those disbursements are going somewhere. Maybe he's giving it some group you don't like. I don't know, folks. I think I'm being the bad guy here on this one. But the fact that this lady doesn't know, it's not unusual. It is not atypical. It's actually pretty normal, unfortunately, that the husband has historically done all that kind of a thing. And now Mrs. Smith doesn't have a clue. And Mrs. Smith wants to know. Mrs. Smith needs to know. So here comes the old Grim Reaper, and old Frank is taken away, and old Frank's gone, and Mrs. Smith is left holding the bag. Not only holding the bag, she doesn't have a clue on anything. Not a clue. Which leads me to expand on that a little bit. If that's the case, and they have bank accounts, and only old Frank, stubborn old Frank's name is on it, and he passes away, she won't be able to write a check. She won't be able to get anything. you need to go to the bank and get what's called put what's called POD on your accounts. Paul Ocean David, means payment on death, pay on death. So even though old Frank would be taken away from us, you could still do business. So you need to go get a power of attorney too. There's all kinds of things. So she raised this up. I really landed on her. I said, you need to get your ducks going. And don't delay. Not for sure. No, nothing at all. Well, when I was a kid, I had a real system going. I had a real system going with baseball teams. And I invented this system, and I probably invented it in the late 50s. I know it was in the late 50s. And I would sit down, and there would always be a map of the United States in the Press Citizen at the time, and maybe the Gazette. We had paper outs for both of them. And it would show all of the spring training locations of all these teams. And I remember I could almost Bradenton, Florida, Clearwater, Florida, Vero Beach, of course, the Dodgers, all those places. And the Giants one year decided to go to Arizona and went to Tucson. And we were in Tucson one year, and we visited the Giants spring training. So all these teams were down there. So I sat down, and I concocted a letter. Now, I'm probably a late Cub Scout age. I'm 9 or 10. Oh, 9 or 10, yeah. Dear, I would write a letter. Dear sirs, my name is Rex Brandstatter, and I live in Coralville, Iowa, and I'd like to have a price list of all the novelties that you sell. I'm a big Cardinals fan. Now, I don't like the Cardinals. When you have a team, you don't like the other team. Or I'm a big Cubs fan. Well, I like the Cubs except when they play the real team, the world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. So I wrote to all of them. And what would happen within the next 3 weeks or so, I would get a letter from the Yankees with their stationery on the return end for the Yankees. And my dad would say, you got one from the Washington Senators today. They all wrote back. The Cubs sent me on a typed, single-space typed postcard. I think I might still have it. Single-space typed postcard that somebody typed up. It wasn't the mimeograph deal, because there are a couple of what they call flying A's. The A was flying up in the air, as the old typing teacher used to say. It had a pennants for $2.95, and it had a hat for, I don't know, $3.50. And all I did was collect that stuff, and I had them in a kind of a big 3-ring binder. And my friends would come over and said, look, I got a letter from the Yankees. Well, it wasn't a letter from the Yankees. It was just a price list. I remember, and it was all colorful. They had all those things in color. I thought I was hot stuff. I had all these things going for me. So I probably did that for 3 or 4 years, and I don't know if they figured out I wasn't a Yankee fan. They didn't care. I was just a kid. And it was, when I wrote, it was in kids' handwriting. They could easily tell I was a kid. I told them I was 10 years old or whatever it was, So I had a lot of fun doing that, and it kind of gave me a little respite from spring or from winter and things. Well, I've laid out here on Senior Talk a lot of what I call personal mile markers towards spring, and number one is to get the sun coming back up here on December 21st and then get rid of the holidays, so to speak, and then get rid of January. We're marching along, folks. We're marching right along, and then the next thing that makes people think spring, but we know it's not really true, is Groundhog Day, and that was last week, and that's a big bunch of nothing. But it gets you talking spring, gets the word come out. But there's nothing, like I'm going to tell you, that makes you think spring, knowing that spring is closer than we really think. And we got Valentine's Day this Friday night. And these are 4 words that I think even Jim Hunter can say. In fact, I'm going to let Jim Hunter jump in here. And what we're going to do here, Jim, is there are 4 words here that if you're a baseball fan, these are words that you look forward to. Now, after the World Series, baseball has to go to sleep. It's just what it is. Everybody's ready to go to sleep. There's a new champion of baseball, and it's all over with. And baseball lets out a big sigh of relief, and away you go. But we all know it's going to go to sleep for a while, but then something's going to happen about this time of year. And, folks, it really happens this week. Actually, it's starting today, but this weekend is the official start. So, Jim, I think on the count of 3, you and I need to tell the world what's going on here. Let's just go this. We'll go 1, 2, 3. Pitchers and catchers report. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. That's the official denotation that spring is in the air. You can look outside and I think I just brightened your day a little bit, wouldn't you think?
My Cubs and your Dodgers play in Japan to start the season next month.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is an absolute true story. The Cubs and Dodgers are going to go to Japan Dodgers did it last year. Played Padres, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they played I think they split games over there.
So they play a couple games, and then they come back here, play some more exhibition games, and then their regular season starts. But those 2 games count.
Yeah, the 2 official, they're official MLB games over there.
Yeah.
And I've never been to Japan, but they go 3 or 4 days early, I think. The Dodgers play, I don't know, the Kamiyoto Giants or Yamamoto Dragons or somebody in exhibition games. And if you think that through for MLB, especially for the Dodgers, because they've had several Japanese players, but MLB Major League Baseball is over there trying to court that crowd and court that money is what they're trying to court, and they're doing a good job of it. I can't imagine loading up your team and all those guys, and I don't know if they take their families with them or not. I don't know.
Yeah, but the Japanese Americans really go and watch their players from Japan all the time. The Dodgers have a great Japanese American fan base.
Yes, they do, and all other teams are starting to embrace that.
Yeah.
The other things that happen to be the Dodgers, they embraced the Latinos, the Mexicans, or Latinos, so to speak, and they signed Fernando Valenzuela. But there's been all kinds of Latin American players over the years, and none of them could hit. They're all little skinny shortstops, And
but then you got Roberto Clemente.
Yeah, here comes Clemente. What a guy! What a tragic ending for his life. But amen to that. So baseball. So that's the deal, folks. We're Jim and I together announced pitchers and catchers report, and that's what's going to happen here. So look outside, and it's crappy out there. But the other part about a day like today, it's really, really good for the body and fender guys. So you might think it's a bad day, but the body and fender guys are just they're rubbing their hands for what's going to happen the next 3 or 4 days. They're going to get some cars, and that's what it's all about. This Sunday we've got the Daytona 500, which I assume will be here on KCJJ.
It is. What coverage starts at 12:30 Sunday.
All right, not the great race. That's not the name of it, but America's race. I guess they call it. And a great thing to floor it and turn left, and it's just a great situation. So we've got that coming up. So
let's see if we have somebody who wants to contribute here.
Sure.
Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, Rex, I would definitely agree. Today is a great day for the guys who do body work on the vehicles. And as I ventured out to Tyson's to get some dog food, I decided today would be a great day for me to teach my daughter how vehicles behave in this weather. So she got to learn about drifting and donuts. We went out and we found a few parking lots, and we,
that's a ride of
when you lose control.
The ride of learning how to drive.
That's how you do it.
That's exactly how you do it.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yep. So we were just checking out a few curbs and avoiding a couple of light poles, but
yeah. Good for you.
For a great program. You guys have a good afternoon.
Thanks for calling. You betcha. Well, there you go, folks. Good old donuts in the park now. That's the rite of passage for every high school kid in the world.
Oh, yeah, and it's a great way to learn.
It is. Now, a couple things with that in mind. I got a couple minutes here. Is that with rear-wheel drive cars, you just turn. So if the rear end of the car is going to the right, you turn to the right. That's straight. Yeah, but with front-wheel drive, it's a little bit different. So it's a good time. Just what that gentleman called it. It's a good time to go do that. If you got a youngster learn how to drive, go out there and try it. It's interesting. And trust me, folks, it's nothing you haven't dealt with in your lifetime today out there, but it is slippery. So, well, that's what I cooked up for this week, and I want you to be on the lookout for baseball coming to us soon. And my wife is, what are you watching on a Sunday? I'm watching spring training. Who's playing? I said, well, you got the Braves B team versus the Astros. Well, who would watch that? I said, only a baseball fan would watch it. She shakes her head and walks away. So that's the story from Senior Talk. And remember, our little motto here on Senior Talk is that I want you to go out there and enjoy yourself. We got Valentine's Day on Friday. That goes for the ladies, too. Not just the men buying a nice little card or doing something, but the ladies, too. And my report here is do all you can while you can, because as seniors, we're coming around that fourth turn like in the Daytona, and we got to wait on how long the backstretch is. So that's the story. So enjoy yourselves. Get out there, but be careful. If you stay home, that's your business. Take care of yourselves, and there's a big weekend for sports. The Heartlanders are home tonight. I don't know about their crowd tonight, but they're home Saturday night. Got a big deal going. So without any further ado, from anybody else in the room, I'll say wish you the best, and take care of yourselves. Do all you can while you can. We'll see you next week. This is Rex Brandstatter saying so long for now.
Your life is always changing, and a lot of things can affect how and what you save. So a good retirement plan changes with your life. At Wells Fargo Advisors,